Welcome back to the channel. First timers, welcome. I'm a dad. If you're a dad or you're going to be a dad, this video is right up your alley. I have my third child on the way. I've been going through the motions of what delivery and labor and the whole process is all about. So I thought what a better opportunity than to share it with you guys, especially you first timers who've never been through it before. I'm gonna share all the things that I experienced that should help you in the process so you're not really surprised or blindsided by anything. Every situation is different, of course, every pregnancy and delivery is different, every person's different, etc. But a lot of these things are gonna be similar for you. So let's just jump into it. So there are 4 stages of labor. And in the first stage of labor, it can go on for a really long time. All these experiences I'm sharing is from our very first baby and our very first delivery. So the first time my wife started going into labor around 2 a.m. and we stayed at home for about 2 hours. So she was probably around, I don't know, I would say about 3 to 4 centimeters dilated before we went in. So what were we doing at home? Because a lot of you are like, what should we do? Should we be freaking out? No, I just kept it simple. I timed the contractions to make sure they were consistent. The 5-1-1 rule. So every 5 minutes you have a minute, she would have a minute long contraction, and if that goes on for an hour, that's when you go to the hospital. So for the first 3 hours or so of her in labor, the contractions weren't at the 5-1-1 level yet, so we're just waiting, and they kept getting faster and faster and faster over time, and then around 6 a.m. we went to the hospital. But at home, what were we doing? Well, I think we were just watching Netflix. I was timing, trying to keep her distracted, and just helping her get through the contractions as best as I could. But that is the very first part of the first stage of labor. So with your first baby, it's usually the labor process is usually what takes the longest. So on average, I would say it's about 12 hours from start to finish. So she started laboring around 2 a.m. and we had the baby just before 2 p.m. the following, I guess it's the same day, right? But you know what I'm saying. So we went to the hospital. You get checked into triage, etc., blah, blah, blah. But the labor process is another, at least for us for the first time, is another 5 to 6 hours. So we walked and we walked and we walked. The nurses from time to time would bring us in, check her vitals, check her dilation process, or progress, I should say. So, and that just went on for probably 4 hours or so. And it gets to a point where you're at the very end of the first stage of labor. You enter the transition phase, which is around 8 to 9 centimeters dilation. And that's when things get real interesting. So everything leading up to this part is just, going through the paces. It's a really slow moving process, but I promise you, looking back, it goes in a blink of an eye. Yeah, it's about 12 hours from start to finish, but it does go quick. But the first part takes the longest, and then it just ramps up really fast once she goes into transition phase. So transition phase is right at the end of the first stage of labor. And this is where, if you watch movies and the movies might depict the woman is like a monster, she's going crazy. Well, movies also make it seem like that is what's normal during the entire, labor. The truth is that only lasts, it depends. For my wife, I think it lasts about a half an hour in both of our pregnancies. So what is that transition phase? Well, it's a little scary. It's really hard to put into words, but it's almost like your wife is being possessed. That sounds terrible, but it's not. It's like not her normal self at all, in the least bit. She can get extraordinarily emotional. She can get the temper is super short. Yeah, every woman's gonna be a little bit different, of course, but transition phase, she's gonna be in a lot of pain and she's gonna wanna do anything to get out of it. So we went natural both births. So we didn't have any pain medication or anything like that. And she's your wife or your spouse or your significant other is gonna be in a lot of pain. And just know that, try to be super calm and steady. If you go off the deep end as well, then it could get ugly. Just stay the course, be nice and steady, reassure her that it's almost over. Like, this is where she told me it hurt the worst. Like, just hurt so bad, let me get the epidural. But at that point, it's too late to have an epidural. I don't think you can get an epidural after like 7 centimeters of dilation. So the epidural is out the window pretty much at that point. So you just kind of have to coach her through it, be as calm as possible, and just reassure her that it's all gonna be over in about 20 minutes. But don't say that, because that makes it, just say it's almost over. Honey, you're doing great, you're almost out of it. Because once you guys get through this transition phase, I'm not gonna say it's smooth sailing, because there's still things that, you know, can go wrong. But in terms of, you know, for the vast majority of pregnancy or labors, I should say, this is the hardest time, to be honest. So once she's at full 10 centimeters, 9 to 10 centimeters, she's out of that transition phase, and now starts the second phase of labor. So in the second stage is pretty much just her pushing. And it's so the contraction speeds have picked up, and it's pretty much every other minute. And she'll be in a lot of pain if she doesn't have an epidural. So this is all my experiences from natural labor. So she'll be in a lot of pain, and she'll wanna push as well, and probably not always when the contractions are going. So it's a really confusing time for the mother at this point, at least in our experience, because both situations she's wanted to push, but the doctors and the nurses are telling her not to. So, and every situation is going to be different. So for us, and once we got out of transition phase, we're into the second stage of labor. It went really quick. So for both pregnancies and deliveries, I think it was about a half an hour each one. So what's going on? Well, what happens when she's at 10 centimeters is like, it's another ball game. It's like half time's over. That's kind of what it is. And so the doctor finally comes in. The doctor probably maybe have come in once just to say that they're going to be delivering the baby, but you haven't seen them the rest of the time. And you have your delivery nurses who have been in there for a large part, or probably the entire time throughout the first stage of labor, and they stay there during the second stage of labor. Most of the time those nurses are super kick-ass. They're very supportive, they're very sweet, very encouraging. But then you get so the doctor comes in and probably 5 other nurses. It seems like there's about 10 extra people in the room. And we never had family there because it is chaotic enough. So if you have family there on top of that, it's gonna be a crap show. So there's a ton of people in there during the second stage or second phase of labor, and that's when she's pushing. It takes about a half an hour, and just coach your wife, your significant other, coach them. Why do I say coach so much? Because I was a fitness coach for many years, personal trainer, and you're just words of encouragement. Honey, you're doing great. We're almost there. You're doing so awesome. Just nonstop reassurance. It's gonna be okay. We're almost there. Push hard, breathe. Lamaze breathing is super helpful. And you're kind of like their metronome. So I know it looks and sounds stupid, but we practice that going in. It kind of a little bit shaky, but you gotta just, it keeps their mind off the pain a lot if you're just able to focus them on the breathing and encourage them along the way. And then, after the end of phase 2, at the end of phase 2, it's gonna be different for everyone. Usually for us, it's about a half an hour with our babies. The baby is coming out. So that's the best thing ever. It's probably the best feeling you'll ever have in life when your baby has just been delivered. Now, these are feelings you can't really communicate, but it makes, the guys don't do much. They're just kind of there for support, right? We can't really deliver the baby. So you feel a sense of accomplishment for your wife, your significant other, because she has just done the most craziest thing a human being can do, which is, you know, germinate and create and give birth to another human being, is just, it's hard to get over. So when she's just delivered the baby, you get this euphoric feeling. Some people faint. Some people faint during the other phases. I've never fainted, thank God, but it's just an overwhelming amount of feelings, and you can't really explain it. So you have the baby, you're super excited to see the baby for the first time, especially if you're a first-time parent. That's an incredible feeling. And then on the other hand, your wife has just done one of the hardest physical things and mental and emotional things that a human being could ever do. So you're just super happy. And that's been my experience. I know other parents have totally different experiences, but this is probably on average pretty similar for most people. Yes, there are C-section things, and then also you have your epidurals, which we've never done. So this is just from our experiences, an all natural birth. And then, so after the baby's born, what else is going on? So what am I, 13 minutes in already? There's still things that are going on. So they get the baby, they clean it up. You gotta cut the umbilical cord. Now I've done it both times. It's a very difficult thing for me to do. The best way I can describe it is, well, they give you the scissors and you cut the umbilical cord. They kind of tell you where to cut it. You cut it, and both of my experiences, the blood just, it's like it explodes. It's disgusting. It gets everywhere. It gets on you. It gets on everything. And it feels like cutting through somebody's finger, except without bones in it. It's really hard to explain. But that consistency, I'll never forget the consistency of an umbilical cord as you're cutting through it. It's like a living tissue. So it's really weird, and it's uncomfortable, but I feel like it is a part of the dad's duty and in some way to do that. So this is officially the third phase of labor, by the way. And so you cut the umbilical cord, they kind of tie it off with the remaining umbilical cord. They tie it off, they crimp it, and they have the little plastic device that stays on there, and eventually it falls off later on down the road, weeks, months later, I don't remember. But anyways, back to the delivery room. So the baby's you just cut the cord, there's blood everywhere, and then there's a couple things they can do. They can they're gonna wipe down the baby. They can put eye drops in it, but we try to wait for them to put eye drops in the baby's eyes because the baby will have blurry vision. They won't really be able to see mom or dad. So that's not our favorite thing to do. They'll also measure the baby and give it a vitamin K shot. So the eye drops help from preventing pink eye, and the vitamin K is to boost their immune system. So both of those things are for their immune system. So they give the baby, after all these things have happened, they give the baby back to mama. So mama's finally holding the baby for the first time. It's one of the most amazing, special things ever that a human being can experience. I'm not a mom, but you know what I'm saying. Make sure they do skin to skin because it helps the baby regulate its temperature. It warms the baby. And there's just probably some quantum physics thing going on that, it's just the ultimate bonding experience after birth is putting the baby skin to skin with the mom. The dad gets to do it as well a little bit later on, and that is a super special experience and a very great bonding experience as well. So here's a fun little thing is the baby's skin right after they're born is very unique. They're often discolored, either pink or purple. They kind of have like a leatherish type of skin. The best way I can kind of compare it to something is if you ever pet a hairless cat before, a sphinx. That's kind of what the skin on a baby feels like. It's not quite as loose, it's a little bit more taut, but that's kind of what a newborn baby's skin feels like. Oh yeah, so we're still in the third phase of labor. We're about 17 minutes in. It's a lot better than 12 hours of labor, I tell you that. So the third phase of labor, so the mom is holding the baby and she's trying, and it's kind of helping distract her from the second birth is what they call it in the third phase, which is her getting the placenta out, which you can do different things with the placenta if you want. We've just kind of discarded it, but I've heard of some moms like consuming it, which is a little weird, a little gross, different cultures, I don't understand. But yeah, that's the second birth, and in some cases it's very, very painful for the woman. My wife said she doesn't really remember feeling any pain from it. Maybe it's because she's overwhelmed with the love and the excitement of holding her newborn at that time. After the placenta is out, you have the fourth stage of labor, which is mommy coming down. It's similar. If you work out really, really hard, your body ramps up, all of your vitals ramp up to a really high level, and then afterwards, the rest of the day, you're coming down to return your body to homeostasis, and that is what's going on in the fourth stage of labor. I know this was a little long-winded. It's about 20 minutes. I didn't expect it to go this long, but I knew it was going to be a longer video, and I really hope this kind of helps paint a picture for you new dads out there, or if there's dads who have a few kids already, you're welcome to post your experiences down in the comments below. Really, really happy to share my story. And if you have any questions, I'll see you in the comments below. And until the next video, peace.